Magic is the art of making the impossible seem possible. That said, that doesn't mean the magician is omnipotent. This is the story of a Spanish magician who made the impossible possible. Who didn't make the impossible seem possible, but he made it possible. Welcome to Creative Contraband.
Welcome to How to Be a Better DM, the show that helps dungeon masters tell better stories and run more engaging games. This is Creative Contraband, where we take ideas from elsewhere and smuggle them into our craft to take it one step further. And remember, all of this is brought to you by Session Zero Studios.
Welcome once again, fellow GMs and DMs, to the 7th episode of this experiment called Creative Contraband. My name is Daniel, you can call me Danny, and I have been a semi-professional artist for about a decade now. I have worked in magic, I have worked in theater and in music too, so hopefully you can take something away from my words today. As you might already know, this is an experiment by the How to Be a Better DM team, and that means I will for 12 weeks be trying to smuggle knowledge from other arts into our craft to try and take it one step further. If you like the content, please join the Discord and give us a follow on Instagram. You can find us at How to Be a Better DM podcast and at gamemaster.hof, H-O-F as in Hall of Fame. If this is the first episode you are listening of Creative Contraband, I highly recommend you go and listen to the first one, because I give some context about who I am and about how I think about dungeon mastering and game mastering. According to my girlfriend, that's also the best episode so far. So yeah, you might learn quite a lot there. Actually, I don't want to go on a tangent right now, but I have seen other creators touch similar topics, way bigger creators, and that makes me think I am choosing good topics. So that's nice. I will also be having some interviews in the near future, so I really hope you like the guests we have. We already have one confirmed. It's someone I do admire quite a lot, that's why I invited him. And I really think we are going to have some really good content soon. So please give us a like, leave a comment, and let's get into the topic. So, as you might have already seen in the title, today we will be talking about dentists and the doctor's office, and also about comets. But what do they have in common? First, let me tell you a short story. A couple days ago, I went to a charity event, which was 24 hours of role-playing games. And I decided to join a table, and it was a horror table. It was a game called Rats in the Walls, which I highly recommend. I don't know if you have ever played maybe liminal horror. It is in that vein, I would say. It is a PBTA version of the classical horror games in the vein of Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu, liminal horror and stuff. And during the session, I usually, when I am as a player at the table, I make notes not only about the session itself, but about the things I can learn from the other players and from the game master. And I noticed I was making a good amount of notes of negative stuff. It's not that I thought the game master was bad. I know for a fact this person had lots more experience GMing than I do, but there were some things that I thought could be better or were not quite in my style. But the ending of the session was very good. I really liked it. And then I came home to my girlfriend, which was asleep, of course, it was 5 in the morning. But the next day I told her how the thing was, and I noticed that I actually had a pretty positive experience overall, or that's what I felt, but my notes said something else. And then I remembered an article I had read a long time ago, which was about how we perceive pain when we go to the doctor. So you can make your players remember you as a way better DM than you might be. I'm not saying you're a bad DM. I'm just saying you can really enhance the perception they have of you by making the ending of the session more powerful. That's exactly what I went through 48 hours ago. I went to a session which was okay, it was a one-shot, but then the day after, I was feeling as if it had been really good. And that brings me to two things. Number one, it's what in science is called the peak end rule. And this rule says that when people look back on an experience, especially one involving discomfort or pain or whatever, they base their judgment on the highest intensity point and how the experience ended, rather than the total or mean intensity over time. So, if you had a really good moment in your session and you end it on a really high note, then people are going to judge the session in retrospect with that in mind, instead of the average mean intensity of the experience. So you can make your players actually remember that they had lots more fun by introducing certain high moments, certain peak moments in your sessions. And this has been known by science actually for more than 30 years now. So why is it we haven't been using this? We know about this. So what I recommend is try to end on a higher note, or try to make the last scene of the session especially good. And of course, we know we have to improvise, we have to deal with the scenario that our players are giving us, but I will give you some tips on how to do this. Spoiler alert, you can prep for this. It's no mystery, but we are going to deal with that later. So I want you to keep that in mind, because we are now moving to something else entirely. We are moving to the Spain of the 90s and the 80s. There was a really huge, not as in a tall, there was a really huge magician, as in, you know, a very important one, not a very tall one, called Juan Tamariz. This guy is a genius, and I'm not saying it lightly. I don't think I ever say something like that lightly. But this guy made television magic a really huge thing in Spain for a while. And I would say, actually, I know it's a consensus in the illusionism world, that this guy is one of the fundamental pieces that made Spain probably the country with the best magic there is until today. He is also a brilliant writer, and he has done so much for the theory of magic. So why am I even talking about him? He has an anecdote, a really good anecdote, I would say. As you might already know, probably, we magicians don't have superpowers. We use sleight of hand, we use lots of neuroscience, and we use the control of the attention, we use psychology to trick the brains. We actually don't trick the eye, we trick the brains. And it's also not true that we are very fast and stuff, that this thing of the hands are faster than the eye, that's very old, we don't use that now. But we do trick the brains, with psychology mostly. So, we don't have superpowers, we can't do anything we want. We have a set of techniques, and we can try to bend reality with those techniques, but we don't have the power to do actually impossible stuff, right? So this guy once went to a bar with other magicians. That's very common in the magic world, that you go to bars and talk about magic until 4 or 5 a.m. And a person went to this Juan Tamariz magician, and the guy was like, "Oh, you are Juan Tamariz, I have seen you on TV, and not only that, actually, you performed at a bar, and I was there with my family, and I clearly remember when you took that card and you put it in the deck, and then the deck flew out the window, and the card we had selected was the only one in your hand, and then you made it disappear and appear on the roof." And Juan Tamariz was like, "Oh, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That makes me really happy." And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, thank you very much, you are great, whatever, blah blah blah," and the guy went back to his table. And the other magicians that were there, who are the ones who tell the story, asked Juan Tamariz, "Dude, what the fuck? we can't make decks fly out the window. Which trick was it that you did, that you performed for him in that bar?" And Juan Tamariz said, "Well, apparently it was the one where I take a selected card and then the deck flies out the window and the only card in my hand is the selected one, and then I make it appear on the roof." And that teaches us something really important, which is what he then went to call the comet effect. I mean, I don't know if it's translated the same way, so you might not find it, but it's called the comet effect, and it's that distortion of the memories that happens after time passes. And when you see a comet, or you see maybe you look at the stars one day and they are particularly beautiful, or the moon maybe, and then maybe you look back after months or years and you remember that moment way more beautiful than it actually was. And that happens in all realms of life. Maybe you had a moment with a loved one that you remember fondly, and you remember it being way more beautiful than maybe it actually was, or maybe way more impressive, or maybe way more important, because that happens with memories. Sometimes memories turn into memories of memories, and that's a little bit sad to think about, but that's just the way it goes. So, this is called the comet effect because when you look at a comet, like the Halley comet, for example, you might remember it as way more impressive or impossible or beautiful or better than it actually was at that moment. This so-called comet effect has also been analyzed by neuroscientists. Of course, this is not just something that this magician thought of and we all said, sure, that might exist, that's okay. The neuroscientist, the Spanish neuroscientist Jordi Camí, has actually written quite a bit about it. And he has a very good book called Our Illusionist Brain. I don't know if it's available in English, but you might find it somewhere. And he talks about lots of interesting stuff. And among all of those, there is this comet effect. So knowing that, we can work in building and fabricating moments for our tables. And then the memories of these moments will be all the more powerful in the future. Actually, in the first episode, I told a story about one of my players trying to use a bucket of lard to to burn a BBEG. And maybe it wasn't as funny. It wasn't as funny as I thought at that moment. But now I do remember it very fondly. I mean, that day it probably was just one more of many moments at the table. And it might actually have dragged longer than I thought. And maybe I even was a little bit anxious about the table not actually making a decision about how to deal with the BBEG. But all those things are gone now. And I remember all the fun I had and how funny that was for us all. So yeah, you can fabricate these moments, or your players can. What I mean at the end of the day is lean on these. When you have these moments, no matter where they come from, lean on these, and I promise they will make one hell of a memory for your players. So, some practical tips before we leave. Number 1, take control of the session endings. What I mean by this is you should be the one that decides in which note the session ends, and the players should never have the last word in the session. Not because you want to take away agency from them, but, and this is again a lesson that we take from Magic, in Magic the moment of revelation is sacred. When you have to reveal that the card on the roof, for example, was the selected one, you do it cleanly, you do it slowly, you make a dramatic pause, you use silence to make the effect all the more impressive and impossible. The spectator does not know how to do that, and that's okay, that's very okay. But the pacing, the timing, the body language, all of those things are things that you are prepared to control, but the spectator isn't. And at table, I would say that something like that happens too. Unless you have a player that's very good at narration and can give the ending of the session all the weight that it should have, then you should have the last words, because you are the one that sets the tone. That's number 1. Number 2, script your last words at the table. And this has to do with the number 1, of course, but this is very important. If you are going to end the session in a very epic note, and you stutter because you're nervous or you mispronunciate something, then that's not really too epic, and that kind of plays against you. So script what you're going to say, have it clearly, and when you're prepping, you can have 1 or 2 or 3 short sentences that work in different scenarios, but that can make that lasting impression on your players. As we said already, the last impression is very important. So the last words you say are something that is going to totally change the way the players judge the session in retrospect. So having the last words scripted is a very good idea, in my opinion. And number 3, steal from media you like. Go watch one of your favorite series, not movies, when it's series, and maybe find one of those series you can't stop watching and you play episode after episode after episode. What is it in the end of the episode that makes you want to watch the next one right away? The writers of Netflix and HBO and A24 and all of these producing companies are experts at this. And I would bet you probably like a TV series or maybe even a sitcom, although they work a little bit differently. But if you maybe watch Stranger Things, if you watch Adolescence, if you watch Dexter, if you watch, I don't know, maybe lesser known ones like Safe, you can learn so much by watching those and just doing some critical consuming. What do I like about this ending? Why do I want more? And you can translate that into your session to make your players feel, I want more of this. I'm having so much fun. This cliffhanger is so good. Why is it so good? So yeah, just do some studying there, and I think you are going to learn quite a lot. At the end of each episode, I will leave you with a word or quote that you might know or not, but that I think can help you level up your game as a DM and as an artist. Today's quote is by Orson Welles, one of my favorite artists of all time. He was not only a great director, but he was also a magician. Surprise, surprise. And this quote goes: if you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop your story. That's it for today. Thanks once again for joining us. And if you learned something new, please leave a comment, join the Discord, or share this with a friend. Follow us on Instagram, again, at How to Be a Better DM podcast and at gamemaster.hof on Instagram. We are soon going to be uploading some video stuff, so I really recommend you start following us on all these other platforms. And we love hearing about what you think, about what we're doing. We're doing this for you all, so please give us some feedback. We love the feedback. And remember, there are lessons in every craft, and I want to bring them all to your table. So we will be back in one more week with another handcrafted episode, but until then, let's roll initiative.
This is Creative Contraband, brought to you by Session Zero Studios.